worthy. Open up, let's give it. Open up and give it. Oh, yeah. If you love him, let's glory. If you love him, let's glorify him. Glorify him. Say rejoice. Let the people look on. Let the people look on. By you will be thy Lord, I will rejoice. This is the day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Somebody say, let the praise be. Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready? For the chains that bind up the enemy are utterly destroyed. Praise and screams and praise. Are you ready?
See peace come, not like pray when you feel peaceful. You know what I mean? And
right.
so
I'm still alive because you saved me once again. G.O.D. Time after time, you the only.
Right. Good morning, everyone.
hey guys,
Happy Sunday, and welcome to another edition of Heart to Heart, the 11th one this year.
Air.
Yes. I'm Pastor Tiffany,
I'm Pastor Merrick.
and you are you. And so here we are.
Yes.
Again, on this Sunday. How you doing today? How you feeling today?
I'm great. We just came off our vision series, so I got a little boost in my step. I ain't even gonna lie. Like I'm really excited about our church and I think it's a good season ahead. So I'm kind of walking a little bit taller, shoulders back. I'm excited. Yeah. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You know, talking about the vision series, like it was everything. I feel like this month, just the month of November is just like, you know, we're gearing up into the holidays. Right. It's getting ready to be Thanksgiving in a couple of days.
Where'd the year go?
So it's just kind of like, all right, so here we are. Like, we're back at this time of year again. But yeah, I'm feeling good though.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, no complaints. Just have a lot of gratitude, you know, in this moment.
What are you thankful for?
You.
Hey, come on, girl. Absolutely. Cut these cameras off.
No, but yes, so that's my one right now, because we could just be going all
be
day
going
about
all
what we're
day.
thankful for.
Absolutely.
But thankful for you, thankful for Heart Church, thankful for this space and this time that we could be here together today.
I love doing these with you, so I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
I know. It's such a nice way to spend the Sunday morning, you know, kick off the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we dive into today's session, did you want to kind of run through some of the things we've got going on at Heart?
Yeah.
The next couple Sundays.
So first and foremost, we will be back in person next Sunday, first Sunday in December. We're excited because this is kind of like our Advent time. So we talk about, you know, the coming of Christ, and we get excited about Christmas. And then we still will be doing a Heart of the Matter on fourth Sunday, but Heart to Heart on fourth Sunday, and Heart of the Matter every week. But we're super excited because for those who remember last year, we did Light the Night. Yes. And Light the Night is really just a worship night for us. So a lot of times people will do like a watch night service, or they'll have a church service or something like that. But we just want to prepare our hearts and posture ourselves to get ready for God and what He wants to do with this new year. So on Saturday, December 28th, we will have Light the Night, and you'll see more information about that coming out. But go ahead and mark your calendars that we are going to have a night of worship, night of praise, upliftment. Yeah. It's going to be dope. So I'm excited about that too. So that's what we got coming up at Heart. And then the last thing I want to, which the team has talked to me, and I have to be mindful that just because we are at home this Sunday, we still want to give you all opportunity to be able to sow seed into our church and to be able to be a part of the vision that we just casted. And so if you want to look at the information below and give electronically, and the Holy Spirit is prompting you to do that, to be a part of the work that we're doing here at Heart Church, we are excited about that. We literally just laid out last week all of the things that we believe God is going to do in our church. And we believe that we're going to flip Alexandria upside down 1 year at a time. And so if you want to be a part of this Christ movement in Alexandria, go ahead and use the information below and be connected with us in that way. So
yes, and we appreciate you and thank you so much in advance.
We're thankful for y'all.
Yes, for advancing the kingdom and all of the things. Yeah. Also, I did want to make one more just quick announcement. We are not having Heart of the Matter this week.
This week, yeah, good point. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Of Thanksgiving. So we want to, Yeah, so
y'all gonna be in there cooking and cousins coming in the house. We're not even gonna try to take your attention.
No. So we get it. So we'll resume that. The next week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
We won't be cooking, but y'all gonna be cooking.
Yes. But save us a plate. Y'all. We're not cooking.
Yeah. Go ahead and let them know about Thanksgiving off this year. What we do?
That's a good question. What are we doing?
Yeah, we know what we're not doing, but we haven't figured out what we are doing.
We know what we're not doing, so we're not cooking this year. We're not hosting.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, I'll probably cook a little something, but not like for Thanksgiving Day. We're not hosting this year, and this year it's a little different for us. Pastor Merrick's father, my father-in-law, passed a few months ago, and Thanksgiving and cooking and food was his jam. That was his bag. And so it just we're just going to just take a little pause, a little breather, because we always host. We have people like family over and it's always a beautiful time. But just emotionally, I just think our family just kind of needs a little bit of space right now just to kind of just be in the moment and make reservations, because that's what I said last year. I said, oh no, the only thing I'm making next year is reservations. And so I'm going to stick to my word.
Absolutely.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah. And I just want to take that for a second and just encourage everybody that, a lot of times we fall into these routines and rhythms and traditions, and it's important. It's cool. It makes us feel connected, but it's okay to go off course, to flow a little bit differently, to, try something different. And so I just want to encourage you all, if you're not in space to do something, if you believe God, whatever, just don't be afraid to try something different. You know what I mean? So we are going to enjoy our Thanksgiving. We've also been ripping and running too. Like, I just want to sit down somewhere.
I'm tired.
I'm tired. I want to sit down somewhere. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
For sure.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll still be cute. I'll still make a little something, a little pound cake or whatever.
A little music playing, a little Uno or something,
Let's go.
Yeah.
Macy's Day Parade. Okay.
Right.
All right. Let's focus.
Yeah, we came here for a reason.
We did. And so, first of all, we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit. I'm going to take the lead on today's session.
Okay, leader.
Yeah, so, just guide me back. I'm not. But I'm taking the lead today, and I'm going to be kind of throwing some questions and some things out there to Pastor Merrick. And so, as he mentioned, we have been going through, Heart of the House.
Yeah. We got to get rid of all this.
I'm trying to keep up. It's a lot of.
We got Heart of the Matter, Heart-to-Heart, Heart Church, Heart of the House. Yeah.
I know, Pastor Merrick. I know you be done with me, because I'm like, oh yeah, I keep saying the wrong heart stuff. Right. He's like, no. Yeah. So, but I got this one right.
Right. Yeah.
So
great job. Yeah. We got heart attack this weekend. Like, heart attack? What is that?
Right. Stop. I'm about to have a cough attack.
Right.
So we're hold on. So we've been in our Heart of the House series, and which was great. So we have been doing that the last couple of years, and it's when Pastor Merrick will get up and kind of like reset the tone, if you will. We talk about. It's of course biblically based, but we talk about kind of like our culture, our norms, where we're going, that sort of like vibe. And so, like you said, we had our Vision Sunday last week, which was great, so we could know like where we are going. Yeah. But we were talking, and I think kind of going back to like that culture piece and just like church in general, right? So if I had to tag this session, what is it? If I had to tag it and title it, what would they say?
Tag this text with this title.
Before you could preach, if I had to tag this. If I were preaching, and if I had to tag this with a title, then I would call this House Rules.
Okay.
Right?
That's a word.
And I say house rules because, like every place, every space that we go to typically has either, rules, a set of rules, norms.
It'd be like housekeeping at the conferences. Like,
like how you go about, like how you move in a space, right? Yeah. And so, there are so many churches, millions of churches around the world. And, everyone has their own way of doing things. And even like people who are in the same denomination, people still, again, it just depends on the church, depends on the pastor, how you move. And so all that, right? Do you feel that it's important to have, and I don't even know if I want to keep using the word rules for this conversation. So maybe like standards, expectations, whatever. Yeah. Do you feel it is important for churches in general to have standards or, how people should like kind of go about and move?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It seems simple, but it's really complex because I think just us as human beings have equated the idea of freedom with no rules, no boundaries, no guidelines. And we see like in God, we see like this completely different concept of freedom that's like freedom within the things that I've established for you, right? Like, because unchecked freedom leads to bondage. And that's, you know what I mean? We just don't see it. You know what I mean? So it'd be like, I want to do whatever I want to do. And that's what we saw with the prodigal son. Like, he had freedom. He went out and then he became bound to his new boss. His debts came up. Like,
out of a trough.
Yeah. So it's like, was that really freedom that you went buck wild and stuff like that? And so, as I've gotten older, I've recognized just in my own personal life that guidelines, boundaries, standards matter in order for me to be able to give me guidelines to know how to move. Like, I don't have to think as much when I have a standard that I live according to. I don't have to go off of emotion as much when I have a standard. If I know that I'm going to work out every day and that's my standard, like, even if I don't feel like working out, I don't have to go check in and being like, oh, do I feel like working out today? It's like, no, this is how we move and operate. So personal life, home life, it's important, and definitely in church, because I think those things, even though they sound like restrictions, it really establishes culture, and culture matters in any space because it's just how you do things and how we set ourselves apart and what we do here that makes us us. And we should all want identity, and a lot of that shows up in culture. So I think it's definitely important.
Do you feel that the church at large, does a great job, or does a good job at establishing culture?
So I think the church at large, at least in the context that I've been in, does a great job of establishing rules, but not culture. And rules doesn't automatically equal culture. So rules can very much just be restrictions. But without some type of direction as to where these rules are getting us, then people are just going to be uniform in a space. So, for instance, like, when we were kids, definitely in our generation, we do a little bit better job of it now, but it was like, because I said so. Like, you don't have context as to why I got to sit here and can't touch nothing and can't go nowhere. Like, you have no context. And that's not culture. That's just restriction. That's just because I said so.
Right.
But when you have context to it, even if you don't agree with it, you understand that we do this because ...
Right.
And I think that is what the church at large lacks, is being able to give the because ... They just be like, it's because of traditionalism, and they don't even know how to explain it. It's because this is how we acted when we grew up in this church, and you just ain't supposed to. And like, who said that? You know what I mean? And why don't we? And so I think this conversation is necessary, because we don't want, at Heart Church, and for your own personal lives, we just don't want to just, because I said so. We don't serve a because I said so God. Sometimes he doesn't make it clear to us until later, but we trust in the fact that he's already laid out a plan for our lives, that he desires for us to be saved. He desires for us to have an abundant life. He desires for us to be able to coexist with other people. And so we have something to work with, not just because I said so. So
because it's so real. Like, just growing up in church, I just remember, whether it was like my own church or other churches, like if I would visit, it's like you couldn't,
lay them out, boo. Just go ahead, because I know you know.
Look, I'll be here all day talking about all the rules and restrictions. But it was like, oh no, you can't walk on the pulpit, even if it's like after church. No, you can't walk. It's like, why? It's like, just get down from there. Like, why? Like, I'm just trying to just get to this door. No, you got to get down and walk. I'm like, what? You can't touch this. You can't touch this cross here. Why? Like, or, if people weren't in ministry, if they weren't like, ordained or anything, they couldn't use the pulpit mic. They had to use the mic at the bottom. Like,
to give the announcements on the floor.
Yeah, I'm like,
can't sit in this seat.
Well, why? Like, why? Why? And I still have those questions, because most times they were never answered. And I don't know if it's just because, and I feel like it's probably because they didn't have an answer.
They didn't.
And like you said, it's just something that was passed down and passed down and passed down. And then, but again, I feel like stuff like that can also be, a lot of the rules can be barriers to people coming to church. And I know that's one thing at Heart Church that we try to lower as best as we can are, barriers, because we don't want it to be, we want people to come to church. And so we don't want so many rules in place. So it's like, oh no, well, you can't do this. You can't, it's like, well, why am I getting up and coming here? Like, I could stay home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or go down the street, or absolutely. And that idea of barriers is so good. I remember when you first said that to me, and it just opened up a light bulb. Like, I get this image of Moses on the mountainside. He's literally walking on rocks on the side of a mountain. He comes into a front of a burning bush, and on a rocky ground, God's like, take your shoes off. But he didn't just leave it. He didn't. Why? Because I said so. He said, no, because this is holy ground. Like, I have set this apart for something. And I want you to be able to fully indulge it, and coming in here with your shoes on is bringing mess from out there into this space that I've established for this. And so, like, he's putting, I think the way you put it, which I think is great, is like he's putting up a boundary, but he's removing the barrier. Like, I'm welcoming you into this space. Yeah. And the boundaries allow you to be able to enter space with me, and not a barrier as to keeping you out. And I think that's such a great distinction that you made. I know it was off camera, but it's still sticking with me.
Yeah. And it just came to me that day when we were talking. But barriers versus boundaries, and it was something you had said. I forget how you put it, but it was just like, because you kind of simplified it, how boundaries are like, they're healthy, right? It's like, they're healthy. We put them in place so that, like you said, you're not just running them amok and doing like whatever you want, however you want. They're there to guide you. Like, just like if we're like bowling with the kids,
Yeah.
and they got those little
The bumpers up.
the little bumpers, and it's like,
Or the
hey,
guards,
yeah,
depending.
it's here to guide the
Yeah.
ball, and we're trying to get the ball down
Yes.
down the aisle, not in the
Yes.
gutter, and so
Yes.
it's like we're here to help you, but we're gonna put these boundaries
Yeah.
up, but it's not a barrier that's like in front of the lane where you can't even throw the ball, right?
Right.
Because then what's the point?
Right.
Like, I can't even throw the ball, but it's
Yeah.
just we've got boundaries on the side where it's like, here, you can play this little
So
bowling
good.
game, but we're gonna help get you down there.
Right. That's so good. Like, and the thing that just came to me right now as you were putting up that great image of bowling was like that boundaries provide information. Because it's not to keep you out, it's to inform you of this thing. So like a good boundary, in my opinion, should be a place where I gain revelation, gain information. Even if you have personal boundaries with somebody, it's like, oh, like I don't like, no, I'm not gonna talk to you after 10 p.m. Like, oh, okay, like that's a boundary. Why? Because if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not gonna be.
Yeah.
And I just found out something about you because of a healthy boundary that you've
Right.
established. You know what I mean? Versus it being just like like she doesn't want me. It's a personal thing, and I think that's what we have. Maybe that's where we trip up in front of boundaries a lot of times, is that we take it personal. And that happens
Yeah.
in church all the
Oh my
time.
God,
like
church.
yeah, like that happens in church.
Y'all,
Somebody
people are
let you know their
so-
boundary in church, or let you know a church boundary. Like, we've established a boundary here, and people take it. I can't come through this door. Like, why can't I
Yeah.
come? And it's like I
People get so sensitive. I
Right.
mean, and
Right.
I get it. I used to get it, and I used to kind of be that way in some ways, but I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's real.
Yeah.
And boundaries also help us to coexist with each other.
they do.
Yeah, because we want this to be an environment where a multitude of people from different backgrounds, from different mindsets, from different thought processes, from different demographics come into space to get on the same accord.
Yeah.
And without boundaries, then you will have one party overpowering another, quieting another, removing another. You have them stepping all over people's feelings. You have them giving, you know what I mean? Like, and you will cause more damage in space without healthy boundaries. So a lot of times in churches, especially if you have a healthy pastor and a healthy church, the idea is for us to be able to accomplish our goal without damaging people in the process, because we just let people say what they want to, do what they want to, go where they want to. And God has caused us, or charged us better, to protect people while we get to the place that he's called us to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, when it comes to boundaries, and just like with the church, like there's a scripture, 1 Corinthians 14:40.
Okay.
And
Well, open up the Bible then.
I mean, I got it open, like starting at verse 26. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it talks about like orderly worship.
Okay.
That's what it says here. Okay. And so this is like the last verse of this chapter. It says, but all things should be done decently and in order.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask, what do you think about that when you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm sure you've probably heard it over the years, just like, growing up in church and stuff like that, because I know I have.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to get your take on it first.
Yeah. Now, first, the first thing that pops out to me when you said that was all things. And so if you, assuming that this is being written for people to be able to apply to their personal life, then if your personal life is done in decency and in order, then you won't have no problem with what's happening in church being done in decency and order. And so a lot of times the reason that you feel so hit and so hurt is because you don't have decency and order in your own life, in your own household. And so it feels like a shock coming into church.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, Otherwise it feel good. Like, when you keep your house, and this has nothing to do with decent order, but like,
Right.
if you like certain things, when you come into space where there's certain things, you appreciate it. It don't feel like you don't be like, oh, it's too quiet in here. Oh, it smells like bleach in here. Like, oh, like.
Said no. Well, I ain't gonna say nobody ever.
Right,
could be somebody out there.
Exactly.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No, you're good.
we just saw this post, and
Yes.
you're saying that example. We saw this post, and this girl said something like, "Oh, men who budget," it had a whole bunch of red flags.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that goes to show. That's why I was like, she probably
That's
doesn't
perfect.
budget, so
Yeah.
it's like
She don't have no restrictions and no guidelines
Right.
for herself. So she's like, I don't want no person coming in my life. Like, God bless you, sis.
Like,
yeah.
boo-boo.
And that's so God is trying to establish something in the earth. Like your personal life, like, hey, everything done decent. And then in order, like if you really get into your Bible and you really have a relationship with God, you will see that God only operates in order. Like it says, even from the very beginning, it's like, I did this on this day. I did this on this day. I did this on this day.
Yeah.
I made the ocean before I tried to make fish. Otherwise, I would have made fish and they would have nowhere to go. I made the sky before I made the stars. Otherwise, like, it has to be done in order. Otherwise, you will create chaos where you're trying to create something good.
Look,
and so,
I'm sitting there like going through the word, but you're right. Like everything is just very like methodical. Like
yes.
God, like I just
yes.
let there be everything was very and it was in order. Like you said, it was just like, we're gonna do it this way first, this and this on this day. Like,
yes, absolutely. And
God's very
it's
methodical.
And he's very methodical. Even when you read about how he wanted the temple to be set up, it was like, it's like,
yes, he had
to this
exact
cubit.
Yes,
this I want acacia wood. I want this type of you can't go past this. If you got to be a high priest to get to this level. You got to be like, you have to have incense. It's the showbread. It's the, put this in the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
Like everything is like, do it like this and do it like this and do it like this. And so it should not be no surprise that if you do come into a space that is trying to be the house of God, that it would be done in decency and in order.
So this is so good, because this is honestly making me like want to go back just through the word and through like just very pivotal moments,
Right.
like even when like building the ark,
Yeah.
like it was just very
Come on, sis.
I mean, it's
Yes.
just, like I said, I'm just like, it's just
Yes.
so much.
Yes.
Just how just God had everything, laid out, had a plan, like
Yes.
this is this. So like, how do you, whether it's you personally, like, and maybe you haven't had to deal with it yet, but how would you like go about, I won't say dealing with it, but I guess dealing with a person who goes against like the plan or the order of, or how a church, how the church is, the church culture, like,
Right.
because there's always one, right?
always
Like,
one.
and I work, the workplace and all, this is, I do this all day.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to culture and things like that, right? There's always somebody who's going to bucket, who's like, like they're gonna like, it's like they make it their business to go against like everything and like everything is a problem.
Right.
Like, how do you go about ensuring like that there is decency and order among everyone, or like if you have that one problem child, if you would like.
Well, I think information first, maintaining the boundary is important. So it's not about bending the boundary for one person. It's really about maintaining the boundary and then informing the person as to why the boundary exists. The Bible has everything in it. So like Jesus in John's gospel, he I believe it's in John's gospel, he washes the feet of the disciples, right? So it says he folds a towel, he goes to wash the feet of the disciples, and all 11 of them are okay with him washing their feet, except for one. It's Peter that jumps out. And he's
Always
like,
Peter.
yeah, and it's
Always Peter.
It's one person that wants to buck what
Right.
Jesus is trying to establish, and he's like, no, I should be washing your feet, right? Like you're too good for this. I should be washing your feet. And then Jesus turns around and he was like, no, like I need to do this because I'm showing you all how you need to lead is through service. And then Peter turns around. First, he didn't want Jesus to wash none of him, and then he turns around and says, well, then wash my whole body then.
Right.
Like, Negro,
You
what?
one extreme to the- like, okay.
Yeah, now you on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
So Peter's lost. Like Peter
got problems, okay?
Peter doesn't understand what Jesus is trying to do. And so Jesus,
God.
first of all, he doesn't, he said, he keeps the boundaries. Like, if you don't let me do this, you cannot be a disciple of mine. So he keeps the boundary.
Yes.
And then he turns around and he informs Peter as to why he's established this boundary and why you can wash up at home. Jesus is like, I'm not here to wash you up. I'm here to establish something. And so Peter gets informed. But then also, this is the part where I think a lot of churches miss it, is that when Peter finally got the information, when he finally decided to fall back in line, Jesus gave him grace and still washed his feet.
Yeah.
And he didn't kick him out. He didn't force him out. He didn't, all of the things. He just established a boundary and informed him, and then gave him grace as Peter tried to work it out within himself of whether or not I'm going to still be a disciple, live this disciple life, or whether I'm going to go somewhere where they wash everybody's bodies.
Look, and that's so good because, a lot of times, and I don't know if people still do this now. I just know back in the day, people would be kicking people out of churches and stuff. And if someone did something that wasn't like their norms or whatever it is. And so just even you using that example, it's so good because like I said, Peter was the problem child, but I say that, in jest. I mean, but also,
Right.
It was always Peter.
Yeah.
But then Jesus didn't give up on him, right?
Yeah.
And he not only did he set the boundaries, but I feel like he also, like you said, with giving him grace and teaching him, he cultivated things in Peter. And then Peter ended up becoming one of his greatest
top apostles.
Yes.
Started churches, but
and so it's what would have happened if he was like, you know what, you ain't gonna be my disciple no more, because Peter, I'm done. You doing, you want to wash here, you want to back talk,
cut off ears,
right? Cut off ears. You
Right.
can't even walk on water, right? Just all all the stuff, right? Deny me 3 times,
But that I feel like that's what a good shepherd does.
Yeah.
Because before Peter did all of that, Jesus looked at him. Peter was also the first one to gain a revelation of who Jesus was. And so he was like, yo, I have to believe you're the Son of Man. And then Jesus turns around and says, and upon this rock, I will build my church. And so he had already established that Peter in that confession was going to be the foundation of the church that he was going to build, despite Peter jacking things up. And so do I think that sometimes it's called for to, not ask people to move forward? Yeah, but I think, again, it gets back to the why. It's not because you didn't do what I said. It's because it seems like you want to be a person who doesn't want your leaders to wash your feet, or you want your whole body washed. It doesn't seem like you're headed in the direction that we are headed in. And I don't want to use this harsh language because I don't think that this is what the text meant, but this idea of a wolf in sheep's clothing. If we're all sheep over here, we don't want you to just look and act like a sheep when you feel like it. You really got to be about this life, because you can damage somebody else. You can, you can thwart our progress.
Right.
And whose job is it to make sure that we're continuing to progress? We put that in the hands of God, but God has established under shepherds over every church to be it's your job to weed these people out. I'll give you the strength. I'll give you the tools.
Yeah.
I'll give you the confidence. But even if it doesn't feel comfortable, it's your job to make sure that you go, just like David did, and go release the sheep from the mouth of the bear and the mouth of the lion. I don't want to go fight this battle, but it's my responsibility to do it, to protect the rest of the sheep, It's a hard thing, but it's necessary. And you have to take that same sentiment into your own home. Sometimes the enemy is running amok in your home because you have not established boundaries where everyone else can fall in line. And then, like I said, boundaries are information, and recognize that this is the enemy.
Yeah.
Like some stuff is just because it's not done in decency and order. Some stuff is because you're being attacked. But when you're doing stuff in decency and order, you know that if this is popping up, it's because of an attack.
Right.
You know what I mean? And how do we address it? Like some stuff requires prayer. Some stuff requires putting things in decency and in order. And just being like, there's an order to it. So I'm gonna stop rambling. But yeah.
No. That is really good.
Yeah, it's
That's
real.
really good.
It's hard, but it's real though.
It is very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And like I said, I feel like it's hard, right? It's hard doing it at home when if you have kids or whatever the case. But like I said, but even harder because church is like, it's all types of people. It's not just like your own.
Yeah.
It's not your own children. You're dealing with like grown people, grown adults, people who, are leaders and successful, even like outside of church, and they do their own thing. And then they're coming to church and it's like, you have to, these are the ways, these are the norms. You have to kind of like follow this and and abide by this. I know like now as church is evolving, probably what the old folks would say, like these new age churches, like things, it does look different, right? You have like, you have churches now, you can bring coffee into the sanctuary, whereas for me growing up, you better not have
no gum in there. You
better not have nothing. Like you can even have water. Like I think now some places they let you have water, but I'm like, don't be singing. The only person who could have water was the pastor or whoever was preaching.
Yep.
Like no one better have not a drip drop. You better step on out, but then you better not step out because if you step out, I'm gonna look at you crazy. Because you need to be sitting down and not being distracting during the worship. So I'm just saying all that to say there were so many different things. And so I'm curious to see like, what do you feel about some of those things, right? Like when it comes to, do I get up during service? Like, or no, is there certain places or certain parts of the service where I should get up versus where I shouldn't?
Right.
Cause I just know when I was coming up, my dad was like, go to the bathroom before you step into that sanctuary. You need some water, get some now. Because once you're in there, you're seated. Like you said, don't eat no gum, don't do nothing, and you just need to just be sitting there. Don't fall asleep. Like some people don't like babies in there crying.
No.
Like so, and again, it depends on the church, it depends on the pastor.
It does.
But I'm just, what are your feelings and thoughts about that when it comes to Heart Church?
I wrestle with this.
Where's our stance?
I wrestle with this. I ain't gonna lie. I wrestle with it because of how I grew up too. I remember falling asleep at church and my mom would make me stand up in the middle of service. So she was like, "Oh, you won't fall asleep." So I had to stand up against the wall so I wouldn't fall asleep. And
Gangsta.
so she would pinch us first, and then if we kept falling asleep, she would make us stand up. And so I wrestle with that. So this is my thought, and hopefully it's not jumbled. Some of that stuff, I believe, don't really have much to do with God. So this is my thought process. There's a story of a woman who kept cutting off, like she would bake a ham and she would cut off the back part of the ham and put it in the pan. And her daughter asked her why she did it, and she was like, "I just did it because that was the way my mother taught me." And then so the daughter goes and asks the grandmother, "Well, why do you cut off the ham?" She was like, "I did it because that's how my mother taught me." And then she goes to the great grandmother and says, "Well, why do you cut off the back of the ham?" She was like, "Because my ham pan was too small. That's why I did it." And so it really wasn't a reason other than the fact that I did this for something and it just carried on, but it didn't have anything to do with any kind of religious context or getting to God. So what do I mean by that in the church context? I believe that sometimes we probably couldn't have coffee because the original person ain't want nobody staining up the carpets that the church just paid for. You can't have gum because people would stick it up under the pews. And then the janitor would be under there, the sexton would be under there scraping it off at the end and be like, "All right, no more gum in the sanctuary." And you was getting your knees slapped for having gum. And it's like, because that's how they grew up. So I don't think I don't think that some of those things. So for us, we have concrete floors. We're renting a space.
Right.
If you want to bring coffee in here, it's not going to ruin anything if the coffee gets spilled because it's not carpet. You know what I mean? And so, so I don't know if that, for us, that's not a barrier to allowing the Holy Spirit to flow. That's not a barrier for us to be able to connect with one another. That's not a barrier for you all to hear what I'm saying when I'm preaching or whoever's preaching. It's not a barrier in that way. If I ever felt like it would be a barrier, I wouldn't do it for religious or spiritual reasons.
Yeah.
I would do it because practically this is a barrier to us being able to do what we're trying to do, and this is why we don't do it here. So I say all that to say that I think a lot of this stuff is just practical, right? So whatever makes sense. Now, the rule at Heart Church is that some of the things that we do not allow is because we found out that what wasn't bothersome before is now starting to become a barrier. So if there is something that's impeding people from moving around the space freely, we're going to move it out of the way.
Yep.
You know, if there's something that would cause, the way we sit now is in a circular way. So there's a very real possibility that people getting up in the middle of service could start to be really distracting because everyone can see everybody now. We don't sit in rows anymore.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, if you sit to the back, you can get up as much as you want to and not disturb the people in front of you. But we sit almost in a circle now where it's like, dang, why they keep getting up? Why they keep getting up? And I'm trying to, talk to them and blah, blah, blah. We're worshiping and now we're looking at people. So I would never tell nobody not to get up, but we may ask people beforehand, like, hey, now is a great time for you to go to the bathroom, like Pop said. You know what I mean? Like, church is getting started in 10 minutes. You see the clock down, the countdown clock. You know what I mean? And so being able to start trying to change behavior in that way. Some of the things that I do think are spiritual and that do have to stand tall are how we interact when we are engaging with God. And I even do this at home with our girls, that like when we're praying goodnight and they're giggling or they're trying to be like, dad, 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 like in the middle of the prayer, I was like, when we talk to God, we don't, because you're talking to somebody, you're interrupting a conversation. So I expect no one to stand up and walk out in the middle of us like praying or in a moment. It's going to take a minute. You know what I mean? Can you sit down for 1 minute and just reverence the presence of the Lord? And we are asking God to sit with us in this space. And if we could really see God and he walked in the room, would you really get up and leave while God is in the room, especially if we're having an opportunity to address him or him to address us? And that's really the mindset. Like if Beyonce was sitting here, you know what I mean? Like we would act accordingly. If the president was sitting here, we act accordingly. So I do believe that there are some reverential things, like not getting up during times of prayer, not going up, like if I'm preaching or if we are having in the middle of worship and somebody just running up on stage or pulpit, platform, whatever you want to call it, up there. Not only is it distracting, but it's disrespectful. And so I would never allow that. I would literally go grab somebody to cut them off there. I also think that one thing that pastors that doesn't sit right with me, I'm not saying it's wrong, is I don't call out people in front of other people. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong because some people, they ain't gonna learn unless they get embarrassed, but that's not my style.
Humiliation.
I can't do it. So I'm not gonna be like, talking in the microphone, being like, these mics ain't working right. Like I'm not gonna be that fast. I mean, I might be like, I need some more volume in my monitors. Like, you know what I mean? But like, I'm not gonna go in on nobody, you know what I mean, in front of other people. So I do think that there's some stuff that I would, like I said, somebody getting on stage, I would be like, you need to get off stage right now. But there's other stuff that I would talk to somebody afterwards, like, hey, moving forward, I think it's best if we don't do this. And then the last thing I'll say about the right etiquette in church, some people want complete freedom and boundaries are not good for them. But what Pastor Tiffany was talking about with barriers and boundaries, sometimes if you don't have boundaries, you can create a barrier. And one of the ways that we have a strict boundary is if you are with the children, you are going to have a background check, and you are going to have met the other teachers, and they are going to know you. As much as you may want to just jump up and volunteer and help, we will shut down children's church before we have somebody back there who has not been vetted.
Yeah.
And that is a barrier for us. That's a strong barrier for us. Even when people come knocking on the door or looking in the windows and stuff like that, like somebody's going to open the door and be like, hey, how can I help you? Like, we do security tags for the parents to know which parent goes with which kid.
Absolutely.
Because we're not playing with that. You know what I mean?
No,
like that's a hard barrier for us, and I will stand on that. So because we don't want anything. We want our children to feel safe and protected, and the parents to feel peace of mind when they're with us. So that's another area that I wouldn't bend on.
So okay, so as we're kind of coming to a close, I'm gonna see if I can put this into a little package it up. So it seemed like the biggest thing or the biggest takeaway is having context, knowing why you can or why you should or shouldn't do something is super important when it comes to culture, boundaries, like all of that stuff. Yeah. And I agree. I think that's so important. That's because at least and it's like, oh, okay. And you can make an informed decision from there. So context is definitely important. Still having a reverence for God is important. Like it doesn't matter. And I think a lot of churches, stand by that. And again, people just, do it differently. But yes, having that reverence for God was like, no, this is just reserved. This is God's time. Yeah. And so we're not doing all this, right? We're not playing around with this. We're not doing whatever. So, And then, of course, establishing boundaries is important. Boundaries versus barriers. Like I said, we want to keep the barriers low so that people can come to church and want to be at church. But boundaries is what keeps the health of the church.
It keeps the health of the church.
And then also, I kind of got another takeaway too, as far as just pivoting, right? Because it's sometimes, what has worked in one season, like I said, may not work anymore. And it's you can't just stick with the same rules or the same norms just because this is what we've always been doing. Yeah. It's okay, yes, we may have started that way, but now, okay, we've got to move, we got to evolve, we got to pivot. And so I think a lot of churches sometimes may miss the mark on that too, because it's well, we're just going to do this because we've always done it and we can't change. It's says who. So that's one thing I do appreciate about Heart Church is that we're able to pivot and we can be all right, this worked for us 2 years ago. It's not really working anymore. So let's, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's, we're in a new space, or like I said, just even outside of a different space, it's just, how we've grown and just where we're at. And so,
You just said something so profound, and I know we're ending up, so I just want to share this thought. One thing is I want to assure people that we have not established and then left alone, that we have multiple leadership meetings to retest many of those boundaries, to figure out if it's still serving its purpose, if it's what God intends, if it's all of those different things. And so when you said pivot, that's what came to mind. It's that we do constantly or if somebody does have an issue with something, that's why we talk to you out. So I'll give you context. You might give me a new insight and I'll be oh, okay, well, we need to take that to our leadership board and discuss that. Yeah. The other thing too is that one thing that popped in my mind was when you were talking about that we could do something different in a different season. When we talk about even how we dress at Heart, how we it's come as you are, you could dress down, and many people do. That's really hard when you come from a traditional background where you dress up, and basically the idea behind that was I'm giving God my best. Yeah. So I'm going to wear my best thing to church to give God my best. But then those kind of things, which is nothing wrong with that, but then sometimes you can dress up and still not be giving God your best. And so part of the reason why we call ourselves Heart Church is because we are concerned about the posture of people's heart. So I'd rather you wear jeans and show up in the fruits of the Spirit, being kind, being patient, wanting to serve others, making space for others, and having the right heart dress up for God than just the clothes on the outside.
Because there are a lot of dressed up, nasty, cold-hearted, mean-spirited people out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's where we challenge people is on their heart posture and their heart and where their heart is dressed up at. And then the context part that you said, context is important. We get biblical context, but then also this is why Vision and why Vision Sunday was so important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know where we're headed, then me giving you context as to why what you're doing is impeding us from getting to where we're going, it's not going to make sense because you don't know where we're going. So you need to know that if we're trying to, like our theme for 2025 is make room. So if I ask you to pick your purse up off the seat and put it in your lap and you're so used to having 2 seats to yourself, I literally told you we making room. So scoot over. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like it's going to get a little bit more packed in here. It's going to be a little bit more. You're not going to have as much access to me. Make room. You know, you got to make room for other people at the table right now. Get
ready.
Yeah, get ready. And so I just wanted to that's why vision is so important because vision allows you to give context.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was good. Having this context was
Yeah.
very, very good, very enlightening. And I hope that that you all out there were able to, get a little bit of enlightenment today. Today was kind of a nice
right. And all these principles apply to your house too.
Yeah,
your
house,
to your personal life.
Yep.
Even if you at your house by yourself or you in your basement, your mom's basement, whatever.
Yeah, especially boundaries. I have. That has been.
Oh, that's
like
been
my thing. I just finished my book.
Third and fourth quarter has been
boundaries.
boundaries.
Oh my gosh. My whole life is changing just because I just. Oh, okay. That's a whole nother thing. We could talk about that. Yeah. that needs to be a whole nother thing.
Right.
But thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here in this space next month.
Yeah.
But we hope to see you in person next Sunday. At 11 o'clock.
It's going to be so good.
It's the first Sunday of 2024.
Yeah.
That's crazy, y'all.
Yeah.
I cannot believe it'll be December next week.
Yeah.
So
I'm super excited about it. I know I keep saying excited. All
we always
say excited.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. We're excited. But hopefully y'all can see
it. Though.
Hopefully you can see it on my face for real.
Like we're legit. Like some people were like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, no, we're actually
I'm so scared. But that's really what they be. That's what these pastors be acting like they're excited. They're scared as hell. We all are. But no, like we had our leadership lunch. And I just felt like we were talking about doing things in decency and order. We were talking about like how do we bridge the vision of life? Like what are we going to do different? So I'm excited about worship. I'm excited about all the new things that we're going to be implementing. And it may not feel like immediately different, but just the air is different. The vibes are different. Like, it's like another movie called like Taste the Air. Like we just like
tastes good.
It's just
it tastes good.
Yeah, I'm excited. So anyway, we're done.
I know we could quote movies and shows all day.
I know.
Bonus points for anybody if you got any like what we were referring to. Just type it in the chat.
Right.
Okay, but Pastor Merrick, thank you so much. Thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah.
And we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Peace.
Blessings.